Everybody, hello, 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 and welcome. And thank you guys so much who are out there on Facebook and YouTube joining us on a Friday afternoon, Friday evening at 7 o'clock, if you are, of course, on the East Coast, for a very special conversation. I know that we have educators joining in from really everywhere because this topic is one that really lends itself to a lot of discussion and hopefully, more importantly, thought advancement for everyone who has a passion for education or a heart for children or involvement in our criminal justice system, or what I like to call just simply the justice system. I am Zackory Kirk, and this is 3+1 Media, and we have with us today Cobb County District Attorney Joyette Holmes. How are you doing, DA Holmes?
I'm great. I hope y'all are well out there.
I think that we are okay, my friend. I think we are well. It has been a really busy and full week, I think, for most of us. Many of our educators out there have been really grinding hard, and they have really had a challenging restart to school. If you could, do you have any words of encouragement for our educators who are joining us today, my friend?
Well, first, know how much I appreciate you all as a mom. I have two high school daughters myself, and I know what the teachers are doing and preparing for each one of them. And that's just two of the many students that they have. So I'm grateful for you all. Know that there are parents out here and other community members that truly support you, that in educating our kids, we also want you to be healthy and safe. And that's mentally, spiritually, and physically. So we support you. We're behind you 100%. Each day is tough. I know that y'all have to volley when the technology is not what it should be, or, if the student's not quite getting from the platform that you have, and you have to volley from one platform to the next. So I'm grateful for you all. And I just say, keep pushing and know that there are people out there who appreciate you.
We have joining us this evening an all-star. This is an all-star panel of educators, and it is just an honor and a pleasure to just really introduce to you these leaders. We have Christian Paget, who is a Cobb County resident. He loves Cobb County, lives in Smyrna, and he is an assistant principal in the Atlanta Public Schools system. We have with us West Cobb Representative Julie Pinto, a high school math teacher from Hillgrove High School. We have also long-term East Cobb resident, right, Kate? Am I correct in that? I know I've been to the house. It seems so far for me from East Atlanta over, but it was great to be there. We have had some great times there. Kate Nails is the social studies curriculum leader for the Atlanta Public School System, and again, East Cobb resident. We have a brand new resident to Cobb County, the one and only social activist, Candace. How are you doing, Candy? And she is joining us, and so excited with this being her first time being able to cast a ballot in Cobb County. And we also have Leroy Trey Hutchins. He goes by Trey for Cobb County. A school board member. Is it representing District 3, my friend? And Trey would tell you that's the best district in the county, DA Holmes. He would say that is the best district in the county. So I'm sorry, yeah, hands down in Cobb County. And so we welcome you to this chat. And so the format is going to be really simple. We're going to ask questions. Our panelists are going to also ask questions. And we just want you to just talk to us and really educate us around what we can do in the education system to support the work that you do on the side of justice, and what you can do also to support us. And so my first question is really this. What role, DA Holmes, can local leadership from your office provide in supporting Cobb County education? What role can come, or leadership can come from your office to really support Cobb County education?
Yeah, so I think what it takes is a recognition that none of us can do what we do without partnerships, without connecting with other sectors of our community. So just because I'm in the criminal justice system does not mean that there's input and or education that I can provide for not just in the public education sphere, but in the business community and throughout. And likewise, the business community can help make some of those education platforms happen so that we are giving, some life skills to what we're doing and what we're teaching and how to make it applicable to everything that we do. I taught for 6 months, so I can't even explain or understand what these educators on this call have done. But for 6 months at Central Alternative School between undergrad and going to law school. And I can just tell you that one part of the curriculum at that school, it was a street law course. And it kind of talked about the civics around criminal justice, what you do, what you don't do, how the partnerships work within the community that you live in. And I've not seen it in many of the school systems in recent years. So each one of us in that district attorney's office, whether it's an assistant DA, an investigator, an admin, a victim advocate, we play a role and have a responsibility in being a part of that education community.
I think that's a great segue in, and so many people have done time in education and transition. We hope maybe one day after you have fulfilled your community and obligation commitments to the public sector through elected office, you will rejoin us in the field of education. We're going to open up to anyone on our panel who has a probe or a follow-up to add in or anything that you want to know from District Attorney Joyette around what can happen when our justice systems works with our education system and the role they have together.
Well, I have something, and I'm excited to be here. Over the last year or so, I have engaged our district attorney in regards to an initiative that I would like to see in Cobb County, but specifically in South Cobb, the area in which I'll be representing starting January. And it will be modeled something similar to what Fulton County currently has as a junior DA program. And so the first time that I engaged a conversation with District Attorney Holmes, she was immediately excited. It was like, you know what? I think we need to have this conversation. I think this is something that we can do. And so I look forward to collaborating in a way where we can put something together that will bring that civic piece into the hands of our middle school and our high school students, so that moving forward, they know how to interact with our city, with that particular aspect of city government. And so I'm excited about partnership. I'm excited about the future of what this program could look like, not just for South Cobb, but for Cobb County as a whole. And so I look forward to how we're going to develop that in the immediate future, once we get past November 3rd, of course.
Right. And I look forward to that as well. Those conversations, I talked about the community partnerships. And through these conversations that Trey and I have had, we've also developed, I think, separately, some business partners that will help us to be able to bring it and resource those, the junior DA program and other resources that we're able to bring to the schools in South Cobb and throughout.
And so I think, tell us a little bit about, what do you, when you guys, and we'll open it and let both of you guys just kind of give us insight, and then we'll go back to our panelists. But when you say a junior DA program, for those of us who are watching who don't know what what that necessarily means, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I look at the program that Fulton County has, theirs is a 20-year-old program. I think they may be in their 21st year. The program takes middle school students and high school students, and it takes them to into a look of the justice system. So they will visit the police department. They will visit the sheriff's office. They may visit the jail. They will visit the areas in Cobb County that are specific to the justice system. So they may go to a forensics office, or they may go down to the police headquarters. In Cobb County, we have a brand new training facility that is about to open up on the East-West Connector. So they will tour some of these facilities, and they would tour how this particular aspect works. They'll go to our judge, to the judges. What do you call it? Like the magistrate court. They will go to DA Holmes' office, and they will take tour around the facility. They'll go to juvenile court, they'll go to juvenile court, and they'll go to the different court systems and learn what court is which one, because it can be confusing. Magistrate court is different than state court, and all these different courts. And then when you have to see Judge Holmes, that's a totally different aspect as well. So they will know what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, if it has to happen at all. And so it's just that learning piece that we want to make sure kids are aware of here in Cobb County as well. But I think it's a great pathway for our students to want to get engaged with serving the community. So, we have Explorer programs for the police department. We have these different programs for our fire department. And I always am looking for ways to get our students involved with something that could possibly be a career for them in the future. So that's what this would entail.
So, and so, Candy, I see that you have something to add in, and so we're going to come to you next. And so, as you queue up and think of, and get ready, I want to say that that's actually very innovative, and I'm going to tell you why. And then we'll go to Christian after Candy. So we'll have Candy and Christian. I have seen these programs like Scared Straight, where we're taking children into the jails and letting them in prisons, showing them what life is like as a prisoner, when we really could be doing exactly what the two of you are talking about, showing kids what it's like to be on the other side, to be a meaningful, contributing part of reform and justice work. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Candy.
All right. Hey, everyone. I do have a question more along the lines of not necessarily the Youth District Attorney Program or the District Attorney Junior Academy. I know that you may be aware of the strained relationship between the African American community and the criminal justice system. Our police departments and all of the other people higher up within the criminal justice system, it's been very well known that the system treats African Americans a little bit more different from people who do not look like us. So deeply ingrained within certain areas of our community, it can turn into a situation where they would not even want to be anywhere near a or let alone tour a facility, a prison, jail, anything like that. They don't even want to be outside of the facility unless they are involuntarily being taken in. What measures are being taken to kind of heal that relationship and to reach out to those youth who are more at risk for going down a path of a more violent or riskier lifestyle versus these kids who have parents who will say, yeah, I'll sign him up for the District Attorney Academy, no problem. But you have some parents who are not as active as others. So what can we do as a community to help those kids?
Right. So I'll say that I find it to be the reverse. The students usually have no apprehension about being a part of that program, seeing those aspects of the justice system. It usually is the parents. And I think one of the first steps to kind of building that trust, building that awareness, or not even awareness, the feeling that there is fairness and equity in the process within the justice system. And the only thing that is going to jumpstart that is the willingness of people involved in these institutions. So myself and the DA's office, the courts, law enforcement, recognizing that there are gaps, recognizing that there are some blind spots within the system that cause things to happen over and over again, that can seem different for our youth of color, for our communities of color than others. And so people have to see that law enforcement, that the prosecutors in the DA's office, the solicitor's office, and in the courts see that there are changes that can be made. Understand that there truly is systemic racism and implicit bias. Is not just a feeling that somebody has, and that being because of it comes from a historical perspective. We are having those conversations internally so that as individuals who are part of the community, we can go out into the community and talk about the things that for some of us we are learning, and for some of us we appreciate a new awareness to, so that we do things differently. And I hope that from a parent's perspective, that from a community's perspective, there is a finding that, hey, it's certainly better to have knowledge of what goes on in the system as opposed to remain unwilling to learn, unwilling to hear and seek for understanding. So I think a lot of that starts with us who are in the institutions and who have the ability to make a difference and make a change and bring that, the last line in the pledge, and justice for all, the fairness that's in our code of ethics as prosecutors. So we have work to do. They're not easy conversations, but it's important that we have them so that we don't continue to develop future generations who act the same way or feel the same way, depending on what perspective you're looking at it from.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was a great answer. You did a great job with giving us two bookends, right? How you feel and how, in terms of the perception of it, and then also the reality of it. I think that's really, really a great way of really encompassing all perspectives. For those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, join the conversation. If you have questions, please shoot those questions out. Don't feel free or hesitate to engage, with us. And that really goes into kind of the next question, DA Holmes. And that question is, what is already happening in Cobb County from your office to support education in Cobb County?
And I can tell you what's going on from a bigger picture, the court system as a whole. So a program that was started by the Superior Court called Classroom to Courtroom goes into usually third grade classes to talk about the court system, some of the things just as a youth to watch out for, to steer away from. And then they bring the fifth grade students in to do a mock trial in the courthouse. When I was the chief magistrate judge in Cobb County, we participated in that program and also kind of did our own with a couple of the schools in Cobb County. And so I definitely want to see that continue, because hearing a little bit more about the justice system and actually participating in the way of a mock trial at an age where you're not usually engaged in that sort of thing, I think it's important that that continue to happen. But programs like the Junior DA program, which does not exist in Cobb yet, I see not only as an educational piece as to every aspect of, I'll say, the public safety community, but going further and into mentorship. Because I did not know any lawyers in my family or any close friends, and TV was kind of my guide. I loved the TV show Law and Order, so that's, kind of where I developed my interest in the law from. But we are also showing each of our youth what is attainable, regardless of what they see in their families or what they see in their neighbors or the people that they have looked up to. They can see something a little bit different. I know for me, being the first female and African American in both of those roles, chief magistrate judge and district attorney, I had worked in the Cobb County courts. I mean, now it's been 16 years, not seeing anybody that looked like me serve in the roles that I aspired to. But to be able to talk to other people in other jurisdictions or other places that served in these positions and seeing that it was attainable, even though I wasn't seeing it in the place that I live, made a difference. And so I can imagine continuing programs that we have and developing new ones will do the same for other youth that are coming up looking for what might be next for them.
And so one of the powerful things about having all of these educators together with you, DA Holmes, is that it's also an opportunity to learn from everyone here. I'm going to turn over to Christian, and then we're also going to ask a few questions of the panelists and then volley back to you with some feedback. Christian.
All right. I kind of want to go back to the first program that you mentioned. I know Trey also mentioned it as well. And this question can be either answered by Trey or DA Holmes. I heard the idea about the partnership like Fulton County has with, especially with South Cobb. That's what you want to do. So is your idea to do this as part of an extracurricular activity or to do this part of the CTE coursework? and it be embedded within the program of the everyday instruction for students who are in high school?
So it could go either way. I'm sure starting out, it will have to be extracurricular until we have the district buy into the process and buy into the fact that this is going to be a benefit to the community. So yes, while I'm going to push South Cobb first, this is an initiative that would ultimately be available to Cobb County. The schools are a microcosm of Cobb County. Cobb County is great because of our schools. So this kind of partnership is the kind of partnership that keeps Cobb great and keeps Cobb growing and thriving. And so I look to see it all over Cobb. Yes, of course, I'm going to keep advocating for South Cobb. But again, as a board member, and I am represented by South Cobb. However, my objective is to make sure that all of Cobb is healthy. And so yes, while I'm elected to South Cobb, my mindset is always one Cobb. And so and that's why I'm excited about it. I'm excited about Judge Holmes bringing it to the table simply because for the first time ever, the DA has been in our community. Like since COVID hit, things have shut down. Well, Judge Holmes and her office has been in our community and actively engaging our community. We've had several events, back to school events and things of that nature. And our number one partner has been the DA's office. We've never seen that in Cobb County. And it was an eye opener for me because when I start looking at leadership and I start looking at how the Cobb that I want and the Cobb that I like to see, I started seeing that leadership in Judge Holmes. And so I'm like, wow, now I see how that particular office actually can benefit the entire community. And I think that's how we get that trust back that Candace was talking about. How do we get that trust back? Because again, no one wants to stand before the prosecutor, right? So that the trust has to be built by modeling what I'm currently seeing, and that's the DA's office coming into the community and building those relationships and building community partnership, so that the community is saying, you know what? Now I know that if I happen to have a child or someone that has to be on that side of the fence, at least I know that they're going to get the best experience, even in a bad experience. So that's the biggest part of it. Being a part of the community, building that trust so that we can move forward as a healthy community. And so I'm seeing that happen, and that's why I'm excited.
Okay, thank you. And I have one follow-up question. My other follow-up is, oftentimes when we think about partnerships and forming partnerships, I know we have to go towards our district office and go towards those partnerships offices and try to figure out what's the nuances that need to be had in order to get these programs underway. My question is, how are you going to partner with teachers in schools to ensure that these programs can be done with fidelity? Because right now I'm thinking about teachers. Some of these things are like great ideas, but we might be adding another thing onto their plate and teachers are warned. So how are we going to do this in a way that makes them feel like they're also they're partners in this as well, without feeling like it's another thing to do?
Well, I believe in working with who sees the vision and is willing to take on that task. However, many of these partnerships that we're talking about would just be putting kids on a bus and taking them to the courthouse and things of that nature. So, and oftentimes it's just allowing space for the DA's office or the police department to come into our classroom. So currently we have police officers that come into the classroom and they read to our kids in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. That is a broader picture of what this particular program needs to be, where we're talking about all law enforcement engaging in our community. We have a PALS unit within our police department where they are at our rec centers and they actively engage, and they have a track team and they play baseball with the kids. So we already have some of these components already in place. But now what we're talking about is making sure that we get that civics piece in place. So DA Holmes talked about how in 3rd grade, they're going into the classrooms and they're talking to the kids. 5th grade students are taking a trip to the courthouse. We just want to expand upon it so that even now when we start getting to middle school and we get to high school, we're still staying engaged, because continuity is key to this thing. We can start off early, but we have to keep the relationship as children are growing and they start making their own determinations and their own thought process concerning different aspects of law. We have to continue to be there to help guide that thought process so it doesn't go wayward, because they're in the community and the community is saying, no to the popo and things of that nature. So we have to make sure that we are engaged so that when they hear that ideology, they're saying, no, officer so-and-so is my friend. he runs every morning with me, because he lives in the community and he's supporting our community. And so it's about changing the narrative and changing the mindset. And it's going to take intentional partnerships from all levels to make sure that we do that, to change that thought process concerning law enforcement in Cobb County. And so this is just one of the pieces of another layer that we're going to add to that.
Right. And I think much like other programs that are already in the school systems, they are on a, can we handle it? Do we have the bandwidth to do it? I know that there aren't, that all the schools in the county have not signed on to do the classroom to courtroom. When the chamber does their teacher for a day and principal for a day, the classrooms that I've been to as teacher for a day, and I was actually at Hillgrove a couple of years ago doing the teacher of the day. And the teachers who participate love having us there, or at least they put on a great face about it, because I know I enjoyed it. And that was part just engaging with the teacher and seeing how she engaged with the classroom. So these partnerships, I think, can take a little bit of load off, but I certainly don't want to be in a position where I am stretching the bandwidth. So engaging the teachers in a way that helps and hearing their concerns and what is going to stretch them too much is important. And so that's why I am in the community. That's why I like being on these calls, to hear what I don't know, or to hear the perspectives of a room that I'm not in. So these conversations are awesome. And I'm just glad to be here to hear it.
And I'm going to volley to Julie. And Julie, let me tell you what I'm going to ask that you talk about with DA Holmes, Judge Holmes. I want you to talk about your high school students. As a high school teacher, I was a high school teacher for 10 years. So I want you to talk to her about what type of outreach and support is specifically needed to reach some high school students who you feel may not be in a place where they are comfortable with law enforcement and in our justice system in Cobb County. And while you're kind of thinking through that, kind of giving some insight to think through that little thought time for you, I want to say this to what Christian added in, is that it's not so, it isn't so much about not being welcome in classrooms, but this is what it comes down to, is that Trey, and is that our teachers are so unfortunately being forced to grapple with high stakes assessments and a rigorous, nonstop, unrelenting pacing calendar to squeezing in standards, that they look at anything that takes away from even 1 hour of instruction as an interference. But when we get our state officials, and hopefully one day eventually our national officials, to realize that high stakes assessments don't have to be high stakes, and we don't have to have standardized testing, we can have assessments that are authentic and that are real, that can give us the same data. I think that I think our educators will feel more free to embrace alternative things that really benefit our kids. I'm going to be honest with you. In hearing what you both are talking about with this junior DA program and hearing about police officers reading in school, it makes me wish I could go back in time to 2016, Kate, and be back with you in the Atlanta public school system to have that exact same program impacting our Atlanta public school babies. And I know this is a call about Cobb County, but this is the thing. We need to normalize the justice system in education, so that there is comfort on both sides, so that we don't have police officers who don't feel comfortable with Black men and women, and we don't have Black children who feel uncomfortable with white police officers. That is where we want to see our society go, and it starts early. So kudos to Cobb County in this work. And, Kate, that's just the plug, because, I'm in a new field, a new arena, but for the great educators out there, I know that you are the guru. You and Janine are the gurus of planning, and you guys can make it happen.
Janine is a guru for sure. I learn a lot from her. But I agree. And I think that the key to the partnership is understanding there are two sides to it. So the district also needs to do the work of making sure that teachers are prepared to make it make sense. Yeah. So that it's not a disjointed day in the court. It has to be something for the kids that's integrated and has an impact in that sense. And that comes from really making sure the district does the job of working with
So
the
that's
teachers
a great,
to prepare
I think that's
them.
a great word of advice. Julie, tell us, from your high school teaching perspective, your thoughts on, what your babies need. Even though they're not babies, we know that they are babies. They're still our babies.
They are, and as any good educator knows, the key to being a positive influence in the classroom and to be an effective teacher is building relationships. And I believe any program that we do to help build that feeling of mutual respect and understanding between all of our minority students with law enforcement or with district attorneys and with judges is that key to building relationships. And I believe that teachers are going to be completely supportive of this. Our kids thrive in safe learning environments, just as they would thrive in any law enforcement environment where they felt safe, where they had that relationship. So just as we as good teachers work to build relationships with our at-risk students, with our non-at-risk students, with every student in that classroom, a great partnership where others could come in from the community into our classroom, or our students could visit them and help build that relationship will build that basis for any student to be successful.
And DA Holmes, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Both with what Kate said and with what Julie said, in that it can't be something that we're just throwing out there, which seems to make sense to us, but is not congruent with what's being taught at that time. And so we probably take a page from the classroom to courtroom, because they do the in-school part of that when they're learning about the branches of government. And so we talk about it during that particular lesson. But the teachers are the important piece of the puzzle for that. And so all the words that were shared by both of them, I agree with.
And so, I think this is like a really good time. Yes, you have any other questions from our panel? Panelists, anything else to add in? And so I'm gonna, Kate, ask you to give us some insight in the value of our children learning about government today at Holmes, and what we do in the educational space, specifically in social studies, to teach them these things so that when they engage the justice system, they have some background. So while you're kind of formulating that and thinking about that, DA Holmes, I want to also ask you to share with us, you have seen in multiple roles our children come through, whether they've come through as young people or as adults. And I know that you have had to unfortunately bear witness to some really hard cases and hard situations. I want you to think about, what advice would you give to any young person out there that finds themselves in a situation that is unfortunate, where they have either broken the law or they have been accused of breaking the law, and what they really need to know to move forward. And so while you think about that, Kate, tell us a little bit about the work of civics.
Okay, how much time do you have?
Within a Facebook Live.
I've watched kind of social studies take a backseat for years due to the things that Dr. Kirk was talking about with high stakes testing. With ELA and math carrying so much weight, social studies really gets marginalized. And it really impacts our students. We're getting ready to interview next week for Governor's Honors Program. And that's, the cream of the crop. They know what they want to do. They're going for it. But there's not a lot of them right now in our area. And it is really just sad to see high schoolers that did not know how to engage to vote. We have an election coming up, and we had a small team of high schoolers, which my secondary partner, Janine, who's the guru, put together an initiative for them to get to register to vote. But even understanding that if I don't have an ID, I can't register online. And so it just is, it's something that holds them back academically. It's what, if you look at a score report, even for the high stakes testing in high school, the SAT is all social studies and science-based questions. So from that standpoint, marginalizing it hurts them. But then we're creating another generation in a city that does not need another generation of people that don't feel empowered to vote. And we're just continuing a cycle that would be so easy to break if we just made it important in education.
And
I think that's a beautiful way of kind of talking about civics and education, because you know, a lot of that is you're right, being pushed away. And I think that we won't have a district attorney, Joyette Holmes, if we don't have government being taught in schools.
Exactly.
You know, you won't have the foundation. You won't even understand how government works. And so once you get into law school, you will flounder because you won't even understand the basic principles. That's a beautiful statement. District Attorney Holmes, what can you say to our young people that maybe find themselves on the wrong side of the law, whether it's an accusation or a criminal activity?
Right. So if I can step back real quick, and, you know, we first try to have that word so that we can deal with prevention. And a lot of those conversations, unfortunately, are about associations and understanding that as a 17-year-old, you may be in a car with 15 and 16-year-olds because y'all are at the same school. But that 17-year-old is going to be charged as an adult. So while the police officer is standing there with you all, they are calling the parents of the 15 and 16-year-old. But the 17-year-old's parents don't get called because they're going straight to the adult jail. So I try to talk about the things to avoid when we are in relationships, whether it be friends or our partners, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever you may term it. Something simple as taking a semi-nude or nude picture for the single person that you want to send it to, and then that person sending it, that's distributing child pornography. So we got to talk about the education piece so that we have prevention. But then if there's a young person who does get impacted by the criminal justice system because they are charged with some kind of crime, or a delinquency petition is filed in juvenile court because they are in juvenile court, that we also encourage and let them know that this does not have to be the course for the next year, 2 years, or even the rest of their lives, because there's something beyond that. There is a next that looks different than what they are currently experiencing. And so, you know, one of the things that we're trying to do so that we can be a part in that is through our diversion programs, where yes, somebody is charged, but we are working with them to ultimately dismiss that case, but also make sure that they have learned and grown in the process. So we've expanded our reach by not just requiring community service and, you know, negative drug tests, but also tying them to a program where mentorship is offered. And that mentorship program becomes the criteria or the condition for dismissing that case and not having that on their record. So I think, as you know, we talk about the education and prevention, but we have to continue to encourage, even when they're in a situation that is one where they've been charged or petitioned delinquent in a juvenile court.
And so I think that's awesome. Beautiful. You know, 2020 has been a really challenging and rough year for many. 2020 has been a hard year for everybody on the planet Earth, period. Whether you are up in Brazil, you could be in Tanzania, Mozambique, Zanzibar. It's been a hard, you could be in Kyrgyzstan. It's been a hard year. But it has exceptionally been a hard year for us right here in the metro Atlanta area. With the killing of Rayshard Brooks, we've had so much upheaval and unrest in the time of COVID-19. And we have had these massive calls to defund the police. We've had protests, we've had rallies. DA Holmes, what do you think about this movement to reform the justice system?
So, you know, I talked about that kind of in my first answer, recognizing that there are gaps and blind spots, and we have to do something different to address them. You know, a lot of people, when they hear the words defund the police, it takes on the characteristic of getting rid of completely some system. But, you know, in a lot of the literature that you read surrounding reform and law enforcement reform in the public safety community together, it's putting new policies and procedures in place that create that trust, that create that sense of community where we know that, yes, somebody possessing some drug substance, whether it's cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, that possession does not necessarily mean that a person is a criminal. They may be drug addicted. And so we know that we can't just enforce our way out of that. There is accountability in treatment. And so we've got to work through those processes. And if we are looking to really address that by amending some policies, then those are the ways that we should take the next step to building trust within our public safety communities. If I'm in a room and I ask people if they've been a victim of a crime, let's say half raise their hand. If I say, leave your hand up if you want to be a victim of a crime again, nobody wants to. So I think there's an understanding that there needs to be a public safety community. But there is a desire, and I think a fair and reasonable desire, that look a little different than it looks right now. So if we're talking about a throw it away, that's not the best solution for where we are. But definitely addressing the issues in a way that policy changes to bring that fairness and integrity to the system, then I think that's more than appropriate.
I want you to know right now that I am taking that whole statement and I'm going to be using it for a long time to come. Raise your hand if you want to be a victim of a crime. And that is, to be honest, that is one of the most powerful statements in regards to why we do need a justice system to exist in some form. So I appreciate that. I saw both Leroy and Candy unmute. So I saw Leroy first, you take it, and then Candy, we're going to follow you, my friend.
So when we're talking about defunding and all that, I wish we hadn't used that term. Really what we're asking for is programming that will support the community, such as the programs that DA Holmes was just talking about, where there's a drug issue here. Send them to a place where they can be accountable and get the help they need to fix that illness, not necessarily criminalizing them. We've seen what that looks like over the last 20 years. We've seen what that looks like. So now we're trying to do something different. And I think I read just recently, it may have been today, where Cobb County has done some other things with the help of our DA's office, and I'll let Judge Holmes talk about it. But the type of programming that I see in partnership with our Justice Department is the ones that serve the community to make sure the community is whole. So, and we have another program that's coming on board right now. So I'll let DA Holmes talk about that because it's one of her initiatives.
Okay. Are you talking about the Family Treatment Center?
Yes.
Okay. So we, the district attorney's office applied to receive a family treatment center grant from the federal government, which will be administered through the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council for the state of Georgia. So when we have cases that come in, we also have people in our office that offer victim support. So, you know, if you think domestic violence, child abuse cases, you have, or even victimization of communities that are vulnerable. So thefts against our Hispanic community, because there's that feeling that they always carry cash. So when we have those victims come in right now, we expect a lot from them understanding the process by which they get support. Whether it's just moving the case through the criminal justice system, if it's a rape case, them going to a center like Live Safe to have an exam done, a rape kit done, counseling done. A child that's been sexually abused goes to Safe Path and has those counseling and interviews done. But imagine the home where a lot of those things are going on in the same home, and you're trying to figure out how to resource for that student. even at your school with the counselors who, are oftentimes the reporters of the stuff that's going on in the home. So the family treatment center is a one-stop shop for all of that. So the stress that has occurred within our communities now that we see, and we have amazing partners, Safe Path, Live Safe, Surf Familia, other organizations do an amazing job serving to the best of their ability. Well, now this grant employs a family treatment coordinator, which will be housed ultimately in what we hope will be a brick and mortar space with all of those organizations. So that survivor goes to one place. That survivor is educated on what resources are available for them and their family members who have also fallen victim to some of these situations, where they are resourced and shown in a gentle environment what the case that's coming up may look like, because that person then has to recount all of that when they go to court. These are typically the hardest cases to resolve ahead of a trial. Only about 2% of cases go to trial. The majority of them are worked out. But the ones that go are, those child molestations, those rapes, because they carry mandatory minimums of 25, 30 years or life in prison. So you always need to be resourcing those victims. It's huge because we are only one of 3 communities who were awarded this grant. And so it's really big that they were encouraging Cobb and felt good enough to award that grant to Cobb County. And I've talked about partnerships from the beginning of this conversation. That would not have happened if we didn't already have those connections to the organizations that serve our community in that way. And it is truly our hope that we're able to bring other partners in. Those were the partnerships that were obvious because we've already worked together. But there are so many other resources that families in those situations need. And so I'm glad that Cobb County has been the beneficiary of that. Once that award package is given, we'll start seeking out someone to serve as that coordinator. They will then develop the MOUs with all the partners, and prayerfully, we're going to be able to work with Cobb County to either find a building that's owned by the county that can be restored and refurbished that we can use, or property that's owned by the county that we're able to gain to use for that center. But it's exciting. So Trey, thank you so much for bringing that up, and let me talk about it a little bit.
Candy.
Thank you for sharing that. That sounds like a wonderful initiative. And it's really good to hear that Cobb County is making strides in order to, provide these services to victims of crimes, because a lot of times they don't feel comfortable going to ordinary hospital or something like that after experiencing certain crimes such as rape or anything like that. And of course, a lot of people in the Hispanic community probably don't feel comfortable going into a police station to report the crimes they're experiencing when they arrive for the cash. I know that Zach just mentioned a little bit earlier about the protests and everything that have happened this year in 2020 here in Atlanta, and of course all over the nation. I was just curious to know, because when I did see your campaign start, I was extremely proud, and I still am, because I'm like, wow, in Cobb County, District Attorney Holmes, you don't see a lot of people who look like us, let alone in the criminal system. Cobb County is known to be one of those kinds of counties to where you do not want to drive through Cobb County, not deep after dark. That's specifically why I chose not to move deep into Cobb County. I prefer to be right on the line. I just am curious, do you ever experience any pushback or anything like that when you are trying to start some sort of an initiative that would be beneficial to communities who would be considered vulnerable, at risk, or, impoverished communities? Did you ever experience any pushback when dealing with your counterparts when trying to start initiatives such as those?
I have. It hasn't been really with my counterparts as much as members of the community. I can talk about when I came into office July the 1st. On Labor Day, I posted about an umbrella program that I wanted to start, which was called Project Restore 360. And that basically just takes on the principle that we have to take a full circle approach to public safety to make sure that we are continuing in the mindset of keeping Cobb a safe place to live and a place that all would want to come regardless of your socioeconomic background, your race, or religion. And the first program in that was an expungement or records restriction event. So the Marietta Daily Journal picked up that Facebook post and did an article on it. Well, the next Tuesday, I think it was a Cobb Commission meeting, and I was asking for a position so that we could start a community programs unit. Well, a member of the community during public comment came up with a copy of the paper and, said, well, our district attorney is trying to start this community program. That's not her job. She doesn't need to be going around talking about wanting to, do these programs. She needs to be in that. Well, she didn't even say she tried to keep it like gender neutral, but, I'm sitting there as the district attorney. I know who she's talking about. And she was just like, she needs to prosecute cases, and that's it. Most people who were sitting around me couldn't believe that this was the perspective of some members of the community. But what I know, if I didn't know it at that time, what I know is that people had a perception that the only people that could be helped by getting their criminal records expunged were young Black men. That nobody else would have been impacted by an arrest or something that would have prevented them from getting employment, education, or housing. But I can tell you when we announced that program, that the people who were looking to be served look like all of us on this call, had professional affiliations bigger than the ones that I have. It was truly everybody who got served through that program. And it's a misconception that when you're trying to do something that benefits the community, that it's only for the poor Black community that lives on the other side of the tracks. And it's not. I'm grateful that those programs and services help that group as well. But we got to stop thinking about, oh, poor, young Black kid who lives on the south side of town. Because I can just tell you the families that live everywhere in the county who, it doesn't matter how packed their refrigerator is, they are vested in their child's education. They are vested in the relationships that their children have. They are vested in showing them opportunity, whether it's being involved in Sting, Project Snatchback. There's so many programs that I can't even name them. But the mindset that we're talking about one group of people is what I think creates the division and the desire to talk against being a member of the community and serving in that way. I mean, yes, I'm the DA, but I'm a wife, a mother. My mother lives with us, a daughter. We've decided to educate our kids in Cobb County Public Schools. We moved back to Georgia from Maryland and chose Cobb because this is where we wanted to raise our family. So we are vested in the community as individuals, not just in the jobs that we have. And if we don't take that seriously from wherever we stand, we're just not going to be able to benefit each other in the way that I think that we should.
Yeah, I think that's been we are approaching the hour, and if there are any final questions, I want you to think about that. But I'm going to say, I'm going to say this: I'm really appreciative of what you just said, and this is my opinion, this is the opinion of Dr. Zackory Kirk. It is not reflective of anyone on the panel. But last night I watched the presidential debate, and I'm constantly hearing about all these amazing things that have been done by one President Donald J. Trump for the Black community. And he constantly referenced what he's done work in the criminal justice system, which paints an idea that criminal justice reform only helps Black people, which is absolutely ignorant and racist. And for you to then say that these programs benefit everyone is so good to have someone in the justice system say. So thank you for that. I want to say to everybody out there, because people would be, I don't usually bring in lots of members of the justice system to talk about these issues, but I want to say and go on record to say that, District Attorney Joyette Holmes, I strongly support your work and endorse what you're doing, and I'm thankful that you're doing it. I think that it's important to have representation at all levels of government. It's important to have representation in multiple seats, and it's important to be willing to take the time to do the work to change hearts and minds. And what I've heard today indicates that is the work that you're doing. It's not easy work. I think everyone on this panel knows that. We engage in that all the time. I'm sure that everyone on the panel is probably much better at it than me, because I had to unfriend 3 people today on the Facebook. It was real quick. They didn't even say anything to me. They just posted something. It was nonsense. They were unfriended, forever gone. So I do appreciate what you guys are doing to be perhaps a little bit more tolerant than that. We have here with us some Cobb County voters. I want to hear from each of you, just for DA Holmes as a final thought for her, and then DA Holmes might let you give us a final statement. I want to know, what is it that you need to see for DA Holmes, because she's in a tough re-election. Let me just say that and be clear out. What is that you want to see from a DA to win your vote?
I'm already seeing it. So this is the first time the district attorney has engaged the community in a very intentional way. And so as a result of that, I knew immediately who my next district attorney will be. And so it was really no question for me. I immediately jumped on board. I endorsed Judge Holmes. And so she has my vote. I'm already there. And to already see the work that has been done through Project 360, the engagement through COVID, and then the conversations that we're having about moving forward, Judge Holmes has my vote. And I'm looking forward to waking up on November the 4th and seeing DA Holmes as our next DA in Cobb County.
Thank you so much, Trey, for your continued support. I appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you and building the path forward.
I do have one question for you. So I am a voter in Cobb County, and Zackory knows this. I plan to vote on election day because it's just something that is like just a great feeling for me to vote on election day. That's just me. But my question is, what sets you apart from your counterpart in one simple sentence?
Qualifications. I have just about served in every role in a courthouse other than bailiff and court reporter. And I take each one of those experiences with me to do the job that I'm doing.
Thank you.
I can say
and I'm gonna go right back. Who's next? It's gonna Julie Candy. Who's next? Kate. But I'm gonna tell you that one simple sentence was like last night's one simple word: Republican Congress. I couldn't do it because it was at Republican Congress. So that was the answer. I knew the answer. I've done my research, DA Holmes. I knew that answer. But I'm happy to hear you say it because I think it makes a difference. And we have here one of our viewers chiming in. It makes a difference. Anybody can run for a public office, but not anybody can do a good job when they take the office. People spend their lives working and building up preparation to do what they're called to do. And so it is always a blessing when the two things coalesce, that what you're called to do and what God enables you to do works together for the greater good of our society. So Julie, Kay, or Candy?
Well, I just wanted to express that it was a pleasure having you here today, and just the simple fact that you decided to come and do your hair and get dolled up for us just so that we could present to Facebook Live and to have all of our questions answered by you in the most honest of ways and in the most humble of ways, because I feel like you were 100% honest with all of your answers. That to me is a demonstration of a person who is looking to actually serve the community, along with a lot of the examples that Trey has given. Well, Trey's huge endorsement of you in and of itself. I mean, you need to hire him to do like commercials or something. I mean, he has it down pat. But, you know, just the expression of all of the programs that you are working on implementing, and the fact that you recognize that there are gaps within the justice system that need to be filled, and knowing that you have the courage to go forward to actually have these programs implemented, makes a huge difference. So that is why you are receiving my vote. I mean, when I first saw you when you first came out with the campaign, I did a little bit of research then, and I said, oh my God, I'm excited. And I'm still so that I had an opportunity to speak with you today. It's been great.
Well, I thank you. And I don't take any person's support or vote for granted, because truly you could choose to put it somewhere else. And so I appreciate it. I would never expect somebody just to do because I say. Anybody can put something on literature, but you know, the proof's in the pudding. And so I hope that the work that I've done has built up to receive that support and that confidence. So thank you.
I just want to say thank you for all of your community outreach. If you ever want to co-teach with me, my door is always open. You are welcome to come in the classroom anytime. And you have someone at Hillgrove, if you ever want to combine forces on west side of Cobb County, please let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julie. And please, when I do it, let it be like the first week of algebra, because by the time we get to algebra 2 and calculus, yeah, I'm done. So please let it be like the early part of algebra, and I'm all in.
I'll save a good lesson for you. No worries.
Yeah, I can do percents, but that's the end of my math now. That's as high as I can go up. Don't laugh, Christian, but that's just where I can do percents, because I have to do it to figure out what I'm paying if I got enough money in the bank. Kate,
I was about to say that clearance rack. Trust me, I am a master at the clearance rack, so I can do that.
I am excited by your focus on restorative justice. I think there needs to be a lot of examination about the way that we handle criminal offenders, especially young ones. I'm the mother of a biracial child in Cobb County. And so for the first time in my life, I've had to kind of perspective take in a different way. And hearing the things that you're doing, and even taking the time and knowing that somebody is in that seat that is acknowledging the biases that exist, just makes me feel a little bit safer as a mother outside of the educator role. So thank you.
Well, I'm definitely glad to hear that, and hold our feet to the fire on it, because it's important. You know, again, I'm raising teenage daughters in this community too, so it's important.
And so District Attorney Holmes, we're going to let you have a final word to all of our viewers and everyone out there. This is going to be available on YouTube to share as much as you want to, also on Facebook to share, and then also I'm going to make some clips. I'll tag you in those clips and post them to my Instagram, and everyone, you know, I'll tag you as well. I'm going to have highlight clips of everybody's great questions and these great answers. The last thing I want to say before I turn over you to give us a final word is that, you know, I do not live in Cobb County. I live right here in DeKalb County. On the east side, close to East Atlanta. But this is the thing. Your career is going to continue to evolve and continue to expand. And I want you to know that Zackory Kirk supports and endorses you. And anytime you need anything, you reach out to me, and I am here for you. Yes, we're going to hold you accountable, but at the same time, we know that your heart and your mind is in the right place, and it's going to guide you in the right work. The anointing the anointing is strong, is there, it's over you. You would not be where you are now if it was not, and that it's clear, it's transparent, and it comes across in the interview. So I am happy to be here for you in any way that, you know, you will need in the many decades of service to come, because clearly you're a young woman. When you talk about law and order, I feel like I think I missed my Law and Order days. If you were watching Law and Order as a child to be able to go into law school, clearly, you know, you're younger than me, so you got some years ahead of you that I may not have ahead of me.
Okay, I like that, young. I consider myself very young, so thank you. No, I appreciate that support, and it will be necessary continuing and moving forward. So I guess I'll close out just by talking about the anointing and you talking about a calling. A lot of people have asked me, well, why, the district attorney's role. My dream as a child had been to be a judge, and I served as a judge, and I loved my position as the chief magistrate judge. And when the opportunity, when my predecessor left for another position and the role was open, at first I didn't think that it was something that I was going to do. And my husband said to me, well, Joyette, you've always talked about the mission, and the mission being in every single role that you have served in, making sure that you add to it and make it better on that side. So why would you not take the opportunity in a position like the district attorney's role, which truly makes some of probably the largest impact on the criminal justice system than any other role? The district attorney decides who to charge, when to charge, whether to dismiss a case, to reduce charges, increase charges, give opportunities for diversion or accountability court programs. And those are responsibilities that aren't easy or to be taken lightly. If I wanted the easy way out, I would have stayed in the magistrate court role. I would not have gone into a position where I already had opposition, and opposition in different forms, not just in the form of another candidate in the race. But it was about the mission and not the position. So I knew that it was a space and place for me to be in, especially at such a time as this. And I could not have imagined what time it really would have been come COVID, come social unrest. But I want everybody out there to know that I want to continue to serve as Cobb's district attorney and continue the mission and continue that through partnerships. It's not about me. It's about this community and what we're going to do together. So if you are a voter, vote for Joyette. Tell your friends and neighbors and faith community partners, vote for Joyette.
Thank you guys so much for taking some time to join us. Thank you so much, DA Holmes. Thanks to each member of our panel. I know that you guys are rip-roaring and ready to go to enjoy your Friday night. I know some of you are going to have a glass of wine. Some of you are going to have hard liquor. Some of you are going to go out here and simply, maybe drink, like me, some water. But whatever it is, enjoy your weekend, recharge, refresh. Candy, I'll see you in the morning in spin class. Everybody have an awesome weekend. Thank you guys for joining.
Bye.
Thank you.